Hello, I'm going to go over how to digitally colorize your frame-by-frame drawing animations on animation paper. So what I'm actually going to start with here is I'm going to start with, let me make sure we're recording, we are recording, great, we're going to start in After Effects, and we're going to start in After Effects to remove the paper. Now you don't have to do this step. If you like the look of the paper, you like the cream, keep it. And we'll go into the Clip Studio to show you how to colorize it. If you want to remove the paper, this is just the same process as the Photoshop process of removing all the white of the paper. And so I'm going to use this effect called linear color key, which is under the keying heading here. We don't want to use key light. We want to use this thing called linear color key. This is how you're going to remove all this beige, and it works pretty well. You'll see when it comes up over here, you have your source and you have what's going to be cut. You grab your eyedropper tool right here, and you can either grab it on this side or you can come out here to the actual image and click on somewhere that's not, smudgy pencil, but is that gray. And you just click on that, and for some reason I didn't work. Let's see here. Let me try it again. Let's reset that. Turn that off. Of course. And what happened here? Did it get removed? Here we are. All right. Effect. Keen. It's great to see that all the problems that can happen while you're trying to work in Photoshop are in After Effects. Great. So I just, again, grabbed this eyedropper tool and then clicked on some area here. And you can see that it's cut it out. I'll turn on the alpha to show you what it looks like. And so you could just render this out with the white. And then you have a white and black animation if you don't like that cream. If you want to keep some of your pencil marks, so in this one in particular, we have some nice erasures, pencil marks, etc. If you want to keep those, how you can do that is you can just turn the softness down. So this matching softness, the further you bring this down, the more of those sort of obvious effects you get. And I personally like those. I think those add to the benefit of drawing for real on paper. So if you wanted to keep those, bring the matching softness down. And then you can render this. So again, you can render this with white. You can also render this with an alpha. And so I'll show you both of those options. Let's actually go ahead and render this with an alpha because I want to keep the transparency. Now when you render something with an alpha channel, you go up to composition and make movie. Bring you down here. I'm going to click on lossless, and we're going to keep it as an AVI because that will work in Clip Studio. I don't believe QuickTime alpha channel videos will work in Clip Studio. We need to change this thing under channels to be RGB plus alpha so that this alpha comes along for the ride. Hit OK and call it whatever you want to call it. I already did one called Catwalk Alpha. It's here, blah, 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 save, and then render that out. All right. Once you've done that, now we can go to Clip Studio. And again, Clip Studio is a great program. Highly recommend using it for digitally colorizing your animation. More so than Photoshop, just because it has a lot more drawing tools. I find it more intuitive and just a pleasure to draw in, and especially animate in. So what you do is you set up I typically go to a new file and I use one of the animation presets and hit OK, and then import your file. So import movie, and then here's the original one, and here it is. This might come up as just saying that it's not a editable object, which is fine. And then what I would do is I would animate colorize underneath or on top of. So I have this is a video on top of this animation folder that I'm going to colorize, and I've started doing that on this one. So what you do, let's see here, make sure that's working. That's working great. You can work a variety of ways. You'll see the setup I currently have here is let me turn this off to show you what it looks like. I've put this guy here, and I've set this layer that we shot of the animation to be multiply. So instead of normal, right, which doesn't allow the frame underneath to be seen, I set it to multiply. And then I work on this animation folder down here and just paint, right? And paint however you like with whatever you like with whatever colors you like. And then of course you can always switch that on the go as you go. You have to make a new frame every time you want to and so you'll see this in this case there's like a hold animation for this character, so it actually moved this 2 over one frame. And so it's shot on 2s there. And then now I can come in here. Let's make sure I get the right color. Right? And turn that back on. Go back to do. Make sure you have this selected and not this selected. And then you can paint, right, with however you want. And it will look the same. The paint bucket tool, if you set it to refer other layers, will sometimes work. Like you can see that it locates this sort of line that exists on the cat layer and puts it on this layer. So it will work to varying successes, like it didn't work there, right? And that's because maybe there's a gap somewhere that allows the paint bucket to go through. So I typically, do a little bit of that and then come in here with whatever you like, the pen tool, to finish up the painting job, right? And you'll have to do this for every frame that you want to colorize, which is fine. Gives you a nice effect, and it's a nice way of working. And just pay attention to, so in this case, for whatever reason, the first frame is held for 2 frames, and the second frame is not. It goes right away, so you'd have to just make sure that you make a new frame. You'll notice, pay attention to this down here, you'll see that Clip Studio thinks that you want to shoot on 2s, so it's going to keep a separation here, and so you just have to move 3 back to make 3 there. And again, like you can see that this is 3 again, and I could probably go back to After Effects and kind of really see where my issue is. Let's see here. It's on 8 frames per second, and perhaps there's some misalignment here in terms of the, yeah, so I think it's some sort of, yeah, so it's 12, it's set to 12 here. So if I change this to 8, we'll see what happens. And so yeah, now you can see that there's no hold frames, which will make this easier. And I can just move this 2 and this 3 back. And then that should be good, right? So that's how you could colorize anything. And again, you'll notice here that my colors are not the same, right? This is really bright, but the fact that I'm using multiply really darkens that, which is fine. It might look, you might be totally happy with that. You can of course work the other way, where you have this layer that you shot underneath this layer, and then set this, instead of to be normal, set this to maybe something like overlay, right? And you'll get some of that lightness, more of that lightness, but again, it's not entirely accurate of a color, right? So it goes from that to that, so it does change. And so this is where, even if you don't like working this way, it confuses you. This is where exporting with that alpha channel works, in that now I brought in that the one I exported with an alpha channel, and so now I can paint, and I can paint without worry about it being different. It's going to always look the same. And so this pink, right, looks like this pink here, and so there's no confusion there. I haven't found in Clip Studio any way, when I bring in a video that I've exported from After Effects with an alpha channel, there's no way I can tell to lock the transparent pixel and colorize the line work. There are a few ways that I found that do work though. So one way is to just come up here with this. So I have this the actual cat one that we shot, and then I removed the alpha for and exported. You have up here, you have this option to add a layer color. So if you click on that, you can change colors here. So you pick a color and you just dump it in there, and it's going to make it the whole layer one color, right? Another way around this is to make a new animation folder on top of the cat layer, right? Set it to overlay, all right? And then, a little bit tricky, so I'll show you. I made some marks already, but I'm going to erase them. You'll notice that there's no transparency lock on this layer, right? So if you use overlay, it will work, right? But then if you're sloppy with it, it will also show up to the fill. You see that? So if you're kind of sloppy with it, it will also show up to the fill. So a way to solve that, I thought, was to actually grab the selection of the cat and then paint on this layer here. So pay attention to how you do that. If you hold down Control on PCs, I assume Command on Macs, and click on this thumbnail of the cat layer, you'll notice that it grabs a selection of whatever the alpha is, right? So in this case, the line work, because everything else has been removed in After Effects. And then I can just stay on this level, this one, and then I can paint, right? And then now I'm not going to paint outside that selection line. It's not possible, right? And so I can try all different kinds of colors. Overlay, of course, works in a interesting way where it retains some of that information. And I have all my opacities up. So you could spot color these if you wanted. So if this necklace wanted to be a different color than the cat, or the whiskers wanted to be a different color than the outline of the cat, this is a way that you can work. And you just have to do this frame by frame, right? So I make a new frame on this. Oh, got the same issue here. Let me change my frame rate to be 8. That's fine. Thank you very much. Right, and so now I just need to do this again. So I hold down Control, click here, and then I have a new selection, and just stay on 2. So there's no need to go over there and change it. Right, you just keep doing this for the top layer to do the overlay, and then of course do the bottom for that fill. Right, and then this way, again, it should work pretty straightforward with the paint bucket tool. Like things that are obvious, as long as you have your further layers, will catch. You have a little bit of stuff to fix in there, but it can get you at least started, right? And that should be it. So you can animate. Oops, let me make a. There we go. So you could totally draw frame by and colorize your digital drawings this way. And then when you're done, you just export this. You can export it with an alpha channel too, with transparency, or you can that way you can have this character walk. Actually, let me just show you. So if we're happy with this, of course this animation doesn't need to be this long. Let's say I got it all together. I'm going to bring this bar in to be only this long, and I have this loop. Pretend that I did a good job and everything's finished. And then when I go to export animation and movie, I just need to make sure that blah, 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 whatever I want to call that. I just need to make sure that enable transparency is on, right? And I probably should use the same frame rate that I've been using throughout, and hit OK. And then, and then export that and then bring it into After Effects. And then you can start, setting up a stage. You can have things pass behind, in front of this cat, have it walk down a hallway forever, whatever you want to do. That should be it. Thank you.